Today's show is supported by El Carafe Shrine in Clio, Michigan, and they're sponsoring a sportsman's raffle, which is held on April 23rd, 2022. Address is 4240 West Wilson Road, Clio, Michigan, 48420. It starts at noon. Ticket costs are $20 in advance, $25 at the door. One ticket gets you a shot at 100 different weapons. If you're interested in getting a ticket, please call 810-686-2641, or you can buy online at eksportsman.com. That is eksportsman.com. One ticket gets you a shot at over 100 weapons, and if you buy a booklet for $60, you get an extra ticket for a special drawing of 12 weapons or cash prizes. Please check them out online, eksportsman.com, or you can call 810-686-2641. Now back to the show. All right, welcome to the Warrior's Way. This is Isaac in association with UCAN and the Beyond the Walls program. We are here with Danny Martinez from Salvation Army. He is our warrior of the day. Say good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, all right. He's been practicing his radio voice.
Absolutely.
So Danny is one of my friends, and he works at the Salvation Army. And tell people a little bit the difference between like the ARC side and your side, just so they know.
Sure. Here in Flint, Michigan, we do have 3 Salvation Army locations. One is on Coldwater Road, and that's Beecher Corps. And the other one is on Kersley, that is the Citadel. Then we have our location, which is at 2200 North Dort, and that is the ARC. ARC meaning Adult Rehabilitation Center.
All right, so we got the Adult Rehabilitation Center, the Corps, which is where they do like their training to be a part of Salvation Army.
Actually, the Corps is more for the community, where they do the bell ringing and all that. All that money is used for the community. It's not used.
All right, and then what was the other one downtown?
The both of them. Well, Beecher is the one on Coldwater Road.
Yeah,
they help the community with food and such things as necessary items for the community.
All right, so I was just trying to get everybody set up with the ARC, the different.
The ARC is Adult Rehabilitation Center, and that would be where I am at.
All right. And so you have the Corps and the ARC, and then what's the one downtown?
2 corps. 2 corps in the ARC.
Okay. 2 corps in the ARC. That sounds pretty funny. So Danny is the Director of Rehabilitation for the Adult Rehabilitation Center, which is the ARC. And your story is fascinating. Now, we met 6 years ago now is what it was.
Oh, hasn't been that long.
I know. It goes fast, right? And so Danny has a great story, and he helps a ton of people. I actually call him the unofficial mayor of Flint, because if there's somebody that you have got to find, you know him. And if we need to get something done, you get it done. So tell us where you're from. Give us a little background of how you got from where you started, kind of to here. So,
all right.
Nutshell.
Well, this might take a few days if you've got time. But honestly, I was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. I was raised pretty much in the projects, the west side of San Antonio for a little bit, as my parents were working and trying to establish their financial stability so that we could move to a better side of the town, which they did. We were able to move to the south side of San Antonio. For those of you that might know, this is exactly where, I guess, close to Lackland Air Force Base, where they do the boot camp for Air Force. So we moved into the south side. It was.
How old were you when this happened?
So I must have been, I don't know, about 6, 7 years old.
Okay, now were you still learning English at this time?
Yes, I was still learning English. It was still, of course, where I grew up in the projects, I pretty much Spanish everywhere you went.
Yeah. So you learned Spanish growing up, and then you had to get taught English in school.
So, yeah, my primary language is Spanish. I can speak, read, and write Spanish.
So they were, I'm sure that was just vicious, right?
Oh, it was extremely hard.
Kids are probably tough, right?
It was extremely hard. More so when we moved to the south side of San Antonio, because we moved into a neighborhood that actually, it was more of a retirement home setting type deal. So it was a short block. And most of the people that lived in those homes were retired from the military. They were doing civil service.
Oh, I got you.
So we moved in, and it was primarily people who did not speak Spanish. So,
all right. So you're 6 or 7. You're going to school. High school's tough for you.
Actually, when we moved to that side, I went to elementary because I was still in. Actually, I was in elementary school, Athens Elementary, and this is when they were beginning, I guess, somewhat of a thing where, they were doing a bilingual thing type deal.
Oh,
it was back in that era. However, it wasn't really workable because most of the instructors that I got didn't speak Spanish. So it was kind of hard. A lot of pictures showing, cat, can you say this and this kind of stuff, Yeah, sure. But that was back, as they were trying to introduce us to the new language called English.
So that took a little while. How long did it take you to really kind of grasp it?
I'm still grasping it,
But because you had to learn school, right?
Yes.
So you're trying to learn a new language as a little kid, 6 or 7, and go to class, right? That had to be tough.
Yeah.
All right. So the grades had to be.
Yeah. I think that's right? where I think oftentimes, I didn't know if to tell my parents that the F represented fantastic, fantastico.
Absolutely.
But it was extremely hard because you're trying to learn a whole new language and sit in the classroom and looking at people and staring at them, not really comprehending what was going on.
Right. So how did you went into that and you went into high school and then you went, where did you go to high school?
South San Antonio.
Okay. And then from there you went to ministry college?
So as soon as I graduated from high school.
Oh, so you were.
I was actually, if you can go back a little ways, I think I have to do my due diligence to the church where I was growing up.
Yes, please.
It was a very small church, and Pastor Abel Vasquez, if you're listening, I think he is the one that I believe one Sunday night decided to call Danny Martinez up, and he's going to lead us in worship.
Really?
I couldn't carry a note, even if I had a pitchfork.
You're pretty good. You're good singer.
I was, well, let me tell you, when you're 13, 12 and your voice is changing, there was nothing nicely about it. So you can see, but he saw something in me that, of course, I was very upset. I was hurt because I felt embarrassed, to call me onto this because I'd never done it. And it got to the point to where I would have the congregation start the hymn and then I'd pipe in. And of course, after church, everyone's trying to be nice. Oh, you did so wonderful. And it was fantastic. And I knew better. I just kept saying, okay, but that continued on. So during that time, I was doing the role of youth leader and that kind of stuff. And I really didn't know what I was going to do once I graduated. I even took...
So what made you pick ministerial work?
So honestly, I was going to go into EMT paramedic, and I did training, I guess like a 2-week training course type deal at one of the Army bases that I was allowed to do this. And I traveled in the ambulance and I did kind of stuff. And of course, you're trying to find yourself at 17 years old. You don't know what all to do.
Right.
So it was then that I was also going to youth camps. And during the youth camps, it was being held at the Bible school where I would once be attending. So I knew of the place already. So it was at that point that the pastor said, let's go over there and let's talk. And I just made a decision. And I solely said, Lord, if this is what you want from me. My mom, prior to all this, kept confessing and making her prophecies that you're going to be a minister, you're going to be, and I would say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Yes.
Oh, really?
So there was this constant, argument as to what you're going to do with your life.
Wow.
As you can see, apparently
as a young man.
Yes. I mean, and part of me was still growing up, and I was somewhat embarrassed when she would say, he's going to be a minister. He's going to be, no, I'm not going to be a minister. So it was this struggle, but God knew all along what he had in store for me.
So how did you get through the college part? Because as you said, your parents struggled with finances. So how did you work that through, bud?
So a little bit about my parents. My parents worked extremely hard. My dad worked for the county, and my mom had 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, part-time jobs, as they were trying to get things, make ends meet. However, they didn't believe in credit cards. Everything was cash. If you don't have the cash, we don't need it type deal. So, she took on an additional job, and Bible school, we had no Sally Mae, if you will.
Yeah.
It was cash up front,
Yeah.
you know, because the food and the expenses.
Sure.
So this was her desire. This was her dream. This was her, you know, constant prayer that I would go and God would make a way. And indeed he did. He was able to, you know, get me through Bible school.
Yeah, but what did you do? You were busting your butt, right?
I mean, I was working too, and I was trying to help with all that. I think honestly that going to Bible school.
You're glazing over this. If I remember right, you said you had 2 or 3 jobs the whole time while you were in college, right?
Yes, this goes a little later.
That's really important.
Yes, a little later.
Because that work ethic of yours is just killer, man. And so that was something that's a God-given motor he gave you, right?
Yeah.
You're skipping over this part.
No, it's coming. It's coming.
Right.
You know, I'll get to it because this does take effect when I was in Missouri.
All right.
So I was able to go through Bible school. It was 3 years. Now, in order to do my 4th year, I had to go to college, which that's to get my degree.
Yeah.
During the 3 years that I was in Bible school, I was a youth pastor in San Antonio of 2 churches. At that point, I was asked to go on a missions trip as a translator.
Yeah.
So I didn't know the people. They were from Missouri.
How old are you at this time? 20?
So at this point, I am 21 years old, and I've never been out of San Antonio, really.
Yeah.
So
you went from being a kid and not knowing English to now you're interpreter for the English people over to Spanish.
That's correct. That is correct. You know, in all this. So I was asked to be an interpreter for the ministers as we were doing our missions trip.
Yeah.
And they were from Smithville, Missouri. So I was able to do that and assist with that.
Yeah.
After that was done, the pastor who I was his interpreter asked me, "Why don't you come to Smithville and become our youth pastor?" At first, I didn't know what to answer, you know, because I'd never left San Antonio.
Okay.
And I was apprehensive. I didn't quite know if this was the right thing to do.
Where was it?
So this was in Smithville, Missouri.
Okay, Smithville, Missouri. That sounds very uniquely oriented.
Population 800.
Total people.
Yes.
Oh, that's outstanding. Yeah, a little bit smaller than San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you said yes?
So no, I didn't.
Oh, you said no.
No. At first, I was I can't do this. You know, I didn't know. I've never done this kind of thing. So I did not know that during all this time he was in communication with his staff and his deacons and the board, saying, "Can we offer him a job?"
Wow.
You know, and this was all happening while we were in Costa Rica.
Okay.
So. He said, "Well, you just pray about it because we're not giving up. I feel that God wants you to come to Smithville, Missouri." And I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
You know, so that continued on for, about a month. And I was still, should I, and there was one last time where he called. He says, "Okay, we need you just to head this way, stop playing around and you just need to head." So I did. I was able to gather my things and head into Smithville, Missouri.
All right. And you're how old at this time?
So at this time, I'm 21 years old.
Oh, okay.
I graduated from Latin American Bible Institute.
Yep.
And as I'm getting into the town, immediately I see the police on the side. And no sooner do I really make it into where this police officer pulls me over.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, I said, "Okay,
Driving while
this
Mexican.
is why I didn't want to come here." So naturally, in our own minds, as we always thinking of the bad things as to
Sure.
why we shouldn't do these things.
Yeah.
So that was my first strike. So she pulled me over and she says, "Is your name Daniel Martinez?" So of course, I'm like, "Well, duh." She ran my plates.
Yeah, yeah.
"Yes, ma'am, I am."
Yeah.
And says, "So I understand that you're headed to First Assembly of God."
Wow.
So, just like you acted, I was like that. It's like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah.
So she
800
introduced herself.
people, though, I guess.
Yes, she introduced herself and she says, "My name is Carla, and I'm a member
Okay.
of First Assembly of God, and we've been waiting for you."
No kidding.
She was able to escort me all the way to church.
You got a police escort.
Yeah, no lights, siren, but she escorted me out, and that was the first blessing which I thought was a strike.
Yeah,
It was the first blessing of taking me directly where I needed to go.
Well, that is a perfect place to take our first break, Danny. I appreciate it. I'm welcome to the Spiritual Warfare Unit, and go check out our website on spiritualwarfareunit.com. Like, share, and subscribe, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Warrior's Way. Our warrior this week is Danny Martinez from the Salvation Army, and we had just stopped off. If you'd made it all the way to Missouri, learned English, went to school, went to ministry school, got a job as a youth pastor, thought we got pulled over driving while Mexican, but actually was getting a police escort to the Assembly of God Church downtown.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're in that situation. Now, tell people how it went from being a youth pastor to the next step there.
The next journey?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I was a youth pastor at First Assembly of God, and my whole focal point was I was the first youth pastor for all the area churches, so they would all bring the youth to First Assembly, and it was my job to keep them entertained and provide services and so forth. So I was able to get to Kansas City. Kansas City is where we started attending Teen Challenge. For those of you that might remember Teen Challenge, I think it's called now Life Challenge.
Yep.
But so that's where I first got wind of Teen Challenge. So with me doing that, shortly thereafter, I was asked if I could do a temporary job for the state of Missouri as a counselor, a substance abuse counselor, which I don't know anything about drugs or alcohol. I grew up in church.
You didn't know anything about being a youth pastor. You didn't know anything about song leading. This is starting to become a repetitive thing.
So now I'm again questioning myself, like, what's going on?
And this is for the state of Missouri, right?
Absolutely. So this is for those of you that remember back in the olden days what we used to call state hospitals. Right? So they were looking for someone to do a 90-day hire in while they found the person to take that position.
Right.
Now, I was advised and said, well, Danny, I mean, you should at least look into it, and see what it's about.
Didn't your pastor tell you to look into it?
Yes, absolutely.
So your current boss.
Yeah, I was encouraged, as meaning growing in knowledge type deal,
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So it was at that point that I went, this was now in St. Joseph, Missouri, which is maybe a short drive from Smithville, not too far.
And you're how old right now?
And so I think I'm like 22, 23 years old at this point.
So this progressed very quickly from college.
Yes, very. I mean, it's like,
bang, bang.
It's like God had all these things in store,
Yeah. Okay.
So what made things, from that point on is that I decided to do this 90-day hire, and they gave me some little booklets to talk about in group, and they'd always say, wow, it sounds like you're preaching. And I'd say, no, I'm teaching, So I learned about addiction through all these little booklets and what alcohol does to the body and but I had a lot of support from the staff that worked for the state hospital. I had the psychiatrists that were visiting the classrooms. I had social workers. I had music therapists that all come in and sit in the class, which I thought they were there to contain the order of the people that were participating in this class.
Sure.
Little did I know that they were all reporting to the superintendent of my progress. So, it was all of the smiles and learning from Bible school is kind of like you teach, I'm standing up, moving around, and that I didn't know was keeping the clients focused because of my movements.
Because you were just all over the place.
Yeah, I was kind of moving around. So for them, they just kind of followed me around. Yeah. But at the same time, that was the era where we didn't have all this fancy technology. We had an overhead projector with plastic slides.
With the clear slides.
Absolutely. So it was one of those things. But, I was ahead of the game as I was able to color in my slides to make sure to add color to these things. So we were doing that. Once the 90 days were up, I got a call from the superintendent, and he called me in, sat me down, and said, Danny, we found the person we're looking for. And I said, great. Now I can just go back to what I was doing, And he said, no, that person is you.
And now you were supposed to only be a temporary for 90 days, right?
Correct.
So they were actually interviewing you. whole time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess either they didn't find someone else or they feel sorry for me or something,
I'm sure you got suggested. That's
yes. So I have letters actually that were sent to the superintendent from the psychiatrists, social workers who were sitting in my classroom.
Wow.
Those were given to me after the fact, not during the fact.
Oh.
So they hired me. And immediately thereafter, upon hiring me, they sent me into training. So it's just one of these things that one thing I was in so many trainings learning about co-occurring disorders and learning about addiction and mental health and talking to psychiatrists and doing intakes and so.
And during this, now you're at this point you're in school again, right?
So a little before. Then I get a call from the superintendent again, and he says, "Before I retire, I would like to see you get a full degree."
Okay.
Now, I'm not school material, all right? I barely graduated,
Right.
So
Fantastico grade.
That's right, the Fantastico. So I'm not seeing college anywhere in the near future type deal. Now, for those of you out there, I want you to understand one thing, that when I got hired for the state, because now you have to have degrees and all that, but back then they had what we called the merit test. If you take the merit test, you pass it, then pretty much you got hired.
Right.
And I was able to pass this test, so I got hired.
But they wanted you to get your degree.
But thereafter.
And they're paying for it, right?
Yes. Okay. So they said, what will it take for you to get your degree? Because we want you to have the degree. Everything's going in that.
Yeah.
So, of course, did not want to hear those words, because I wanted to move forward. As a matter of fact, I was to the point of saying, well, I'll just leave, go back to San Antonio.
Because you're dreading school, right?
Exactly. I didn't want anything. I was kind of shortchanging myself, casting doubt on myself that I couldn't do this, I guess because of my past.
Now, if I remember you telling me the story, you were so stressed out like 2 weeks before finish, you almost walked, right?
Absolutely. So
tell that part, because that was
I was able to get into the school, and
which the name of it was
Southwestern Assembly of God in Waxahachie, Texas.
Waxahachie. These names are awesome.
Right in between Fort Worth and Dallas. Right?
All right, so you're going to Waxa widget. What is
Waxahachie.
it? Waxahachie.
All right.
Okay.
So
outstanding.
So I was able to get lined up for my education,
And just to walk this in, you're doing the school, you're doing the work.
So, but prior to getting to this, when I asked about grants, I get the news, you can't apply for any grants.
Okay.
This has to be cash up front because you're kind of late at the entry and you don't qualify.
But didn't they say they were paying for it?
So, yes. But I have to pay first.
Oh, and then they reimburse.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. There's always a catch to these things.
Yeah. So you were working hard. So you go through that year. So you're going through that year of school to get your degree, and you were stressing.
Yeah. So every semester, I had to make sure that my credit card was free of debt so that I could pay for the following semester.
Right, and you're just stressed between the work and the
it was at that time that I was working for the state.
Yeah.
I get a phone call while working for the state, and it's Valley Hope Treatment Facility in Atchison, Kansas.
Right, which is, tell people that's a big...
That is a treatment facility in Atchison, Kansas, which I had never heard of. So I went to my boss, and I said, I just got a phone call from Valley Hope Treatment, and they're offering me a part-time position as a counselor. Yeah. And, of course, he said, being that you're new to this and all this, if you want to, learn more, that'd be a great.
And isn't Valley Hope just like a high-end place that everybody's trying to get to, and it just landed on it?
In 1992, 93, when I was up there, Valley Hope was known as one of the most elite. This is where you had the higher people as far as maybe judges and attorneys and high caliber people going into treatments.
Yeah.
Of course, then you have Danny Martinez coming to talk to those people. I didn't really. I was somewhat embarrassed. Like, how am I going to tell someone who's an attorney that he's got issues?
So you get this job, and you're stressed now, and telling everybody why you almost quit with 2 weeks ago.
So along with having this job, then one of the churches in town says, we want you to be our youth Leah.
Yeah, she got like 3 jobs.
So now I'm working for the state hospital full-time, Valley Hope, from 4 to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the weekends is when I do the church, Saturdays and Sundays.
So if I remember correctly, you told me like between 16 and 18 hours a day, right?
Oh, yeah, at least. You know, and on top of that, now bring in college.
Yeah,
right?
so you're at the tail end of this, and you're just freaking out. And you're how old right now?
So I am at this point like 24,
so you're just
25. I'm maxed out.
Yeah,
I am completely maxed out because I'm trying to fulfill. And if you guys know, all these jobs deal with people and problems, you know, and not to mention my own.
Yeah.
But God saw it fit for me to do this because 2 weeks before I graduated from college, I just could not see the end of my tunnel.
See it. Yep.
And I wanted to quit so bad. I was overwhelmed. I was, you know, I just could not think straight. You know, I tell people I had no life, and any little chance it was homework and so forth, and it was extremely hard.
And so you're unloading to the people at the Missouri work. Right?
So when working, you know, a lot of the people that were my coworkers for the state hospital knew that I was doing this.
Yeah.
So they were my cheerleaders.
Yeah.
You know, as a matter of fact, I almost got threatened a couple of times where I said I want to quit. I can, and they said, you know, Danny, you got 2 weeks to go.
Right.
You quit now, you're not going to live to talk about this.
Right. We're going to beat you.
You know, and so at that point, it's kind of like, you know, that's not even my family telling me these things. You know, these are my coworkers.
They're invested with you at this point.
Absolutely.
Right?
At this point, they're seeing me go through the drought and going through all these things in my life.
2 weeks out.
And 2 weeks. I mean, it's like any one of you would say, what is wrong with you? 2 weeks and you want to quit now?
Right now.
I mean, you've done the hardest job and now you want to say no more.
Yeah, when you told me that,
you
I was like, that's crazy. Man.
And so, you know, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Because they did it and I did it. Yeah. And that's the best thing that, you know, we have been put to so many sacrifices and so many things that we feel like I can't do this. Yeah. But, you know, what things that I forget is when God is working with me, I win all the time.
Right. Because there's already a pre-existent path that you're supposed to walk down.
Absolutely. Right? And if this was a test, I think I passed it.
Yeah, and so didn't they throw you a party or something?
Yes. Yeah. So not only did I get a party, but I got a substantial raise.
Oh, there you
know,
go.
So that kind of, you know, made things even better. So it was at that point that, I mean, I felt so relieved. I felt like this weight was lifted. Now, I continued to work for the part-time jobs because I really then enjoyed what I was doing. I had my supervisor at the state hospital who sat me down to tell me about these people who were in treatment such as he had gone through to say, Danny, we may know all about attorney and law school, and we may know all these things, but when it comes to addiction, apparently something's missing. Right. This is where you come in to share that news.
Sure.
So he took that embarrassment out of me real quick to say, you need to stand up.
Like you have a spot and it matters.
Absolutely. Nice. And that's what made a difference in me. But it's how we bring that to others who are hurting. It's the steps that we take in sharing with someone that, you know, there's hurt, but we can walk through this together. We can make changes. For most people in addiction, abandonment is one of the things they feel because they feel they can't turn anywhere. Yeah. And it's hard to come out and say that because that's something that we're ashamed about. And shame, I tell people, we choose to carry. We don't have to carry that. Yeah. So in essence, it's learning about ourselves and finding someone to help me to know that, you know, no matter what, he's going to walk with me.
Yeah, because letting them know that they have purpose and the things that they're going through, there's an outcome for that. They matter. You know, you've heard me say it to them, you know, 100 times. There is real importance about what you're doing. It matters what you do, these decisions that you make. And so that is a perfect spot to take our next break. And if you go to spiritualwarfareunit.com on YouTube, like and subscribe and share our videos. I appreciate that. We have our life application class that we're putting together. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in just a minute.
I'm really impressed with the teachings that Isaac has been bringing to us, as this is all based from Proverbs.
I like it because it's simple, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's very easy to understand and apply to your life.
You know, it points out, you know, my bad parts, and but it's showing me how to do the good parts. And, I'm trying to apply that and, make a better life for myself because I'm tired of where I've been.
It's impacted a lot of the guys as they continue to talk and ask questions after the meetings, as they speak to one another regarding the meeting and the messages and the topics that are being brought up, which are down-to-earth topics of situations and things that we live with on a day-to-day basis.
He takes the Bible and he breaks it down into simple terms and where you can understand. And like I said before, sometimes a lot of churches, even the Salvation Army, sometimes we start using these big words that people don't understand. Like even saying someone got saved. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean when you say someone got saved? And it's accepting Jesus into your heart. So it's like words like that we use that people don't understand.
It's just very interesting how he points out, the different things of, the sin part, and then he comes back with the, how to make it better, and he just points it out. It's there. I didn't know all this stuff was in there, but now that he's pointing it out, it's like, wow, I guess if you really dig into the Bible, you find these things.
This is a daily moral standards that we can live by, that the teachings are coming from. And honestly, we can take verse by verse as what he's done, and pretty much he's done the hard work for us and now laying it out so that we have an easier understanding.
There's some people who don't like to be in Bible classes, but this one seems to get their attention.
Welcome back to the Warrior's Way. I am Isaac, and I'm here with Danny Martinez from Salvation Army. And we had just finished up with your story of how you had gone through the 3 jobs and you're working yourself to death. You almost stressed out and quit, but you didn't. Your friends left you past the end line, and that massive work ethic of yours. Like this guy, like I work. I'm a worker. I can do 12, 15 hours. But when I met this dude, this guy's doing 18 on the regular, and I mean by like the 3rd week. I remember telling you, I'm like, Danny, like I can't do it. You're like, oh, you want to work? Oh, okay. And we were doing, buffing floors and getting the stuff together and shooting pool and having the funny guys come in. And you did the whole function with those guys and Tim and all that. And dude, we're getting home at 10 o'clock, and we're starting at 6. And I'm like, and I was just like, man, that motor that God gave you, it's unbelievable. Because how old are you right now?
I can't remember. I'm 57 or 58. I know somewhere I'm supposed to be asking for
you're like
coffee.
You're 10 years older than me, and you're working me like a cheap mule. I couldn't.
Oh, come on.
And it was amazing. It's like for his downtime, he's going to go work for 2 hours and buff a floor. That's what he does for his downtime. He does some more
volunteer.
Work. Yeah, volunteer, of course. And so anyways, that work ethic is just impeccable, and God has used. It's something he gave you. That's something that
I have to believe that.
Yeah,
I have to believe
because it's nuts how hard you just go. And I'm a big believer in work ethic. And so you were getting ready to go to Missouri, and we're getting ready to transfer. So all of that, the jobs, the stress, they threw you a party. You finally got in, everything's working. And then how did you go from there, which seems like a pinnacle of, Valley, working at Valley
Hope?
Yeah, and going there to Salvation Army. It almost seems like a suicide from what you were thinking about, right? As far as your job. So how did we get there?
So I was able to work for the state hospital. Mind you, if I can say, this was a forensic facility. Mm-hmm. I was able to work for them for 10 years. It was after 10 years of working there that I felt the need that I wanted to pursue a higher level of education, master's degree. And I heard that in Michigan, that's if you want to do counseling, that's the best place. Mm-hmm. So
we had a bunch of crazy people here.
I had some friends actually here who lived here and said, if you want to, you can come on up here and you can go to school and then you can stay here and, so I said, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. Yeah. So I thought about it. And I believe that, in what I was doing, working with addiction and getting myself acclimated with this, I couldn't forget one of the things that my mom always asked, you make sure that you talk about Jesus wherever you go.
Right.
So I took the plunge and I said, let's do this. So in 2004, I landed
And you're how old now? At 2004?
Oh, you would ask me that.
Yeah.
I took
like
the fun math.
late 30s?
Probably.
I'm thinking
like
37-ish.
Yeah, somewhere in there, maybe a little younger.
All right. Just so people have a guideline.
Yeah. So in 2004, I landed here, and I was wanting to get away from the counseling era for a little bit. I was kind of somewhat burned out with all of this, so I said, I want to take on a different job just for a little bit, to change career a little. Sure. So I started applying, and no sooner did I apply the very first place. I don't know. Some of you guys might remember Insight Recovery Services on Eldon Baker Drive. So I submitted a resume, and I think within minutes of submitting, I get a phone call. When can you come in?
Minutes.
Minutes. So I arranged an interview, and the interview for this was that I had to conduct a group session. So, of course, that's that. I can ace that. I've been doing that for, all this time.
A decade, right.
So I came in and I did their group. And after the group, I had the administrative staff sitting on the side also listening to the group. Yep. So they said, come with us, So I was escorted into an office. And I'll say this. I think many people may know Chris Flores, or can I say Chris Flores,
very professional.
So, and Cindy Eckerd were the ones who did my interview.
Okay.
I was able to come in with all my learnings and sessions. I had a 3.5-inch notebook with all of my certificates of everything that I had done. So actually there was no questions during the interview other than scan through this book and say, when can you start?
Right.
So it was at that point that I started working for Insight. And of course, as you guys know, I was then placed at Insight for a little bit. Then I was sent to New Paths for a little bit under Insight. And it was during that time that there was a program going on at Insight for parolees, and that program had just completed its course. So then I was sent to Salvation Army to do the same thing. I was somewhat reluctant. I didn't know much about Salvation Army. In a keynote, I did grow up going to a Salvation Army store right close to the house where I would volunteer to give and stock their shelves and so forth.
And how old were you when you were doing that?
I was like 10 years old. I was like, I just walked down there and asked the lady, can I help you stock? And she goes, well, we can't pay. I said, I don't want to do it for pay. I just want to help,
See, that's that thing. That's that workload of yours. You just got to get something to do to get out of the house. I'll just do it for free so I can get out. You've been like this your whole life, man.
Well, who knew that from that I would one day end up as a director at Salvation Army?
It's ironically funny, right?
Clearly, God has a humor. Jesus is, there's humor.
Yeah, I find it funny that you had to go to a
thrift store,
a school in the United States to learn English, and then by 21 you're teaching people that know English how to do Spanish, and you're starting at a place and you're helping for free, and then you're teaching people how to do it later on. It's funny how it works, because it was like it all just did this.
Yes, absolutely. So during this whole time, if you guys understand or remember that Insight closed in 2011, I'll never forget that year. So it was at that point that Catholic Charities picked me up to become one of the counselors, and I always told everyone that I wanted to wait to be hired because I wanted to try out to see what it was like to collect unemployment, because I'd never done that.
You want to know what it was like to not work.
So I told her I want to be the last one to get hired. Unfortunately, I was one of the first ones to get picked up. So I was picked up by Catholic Charities.
Wait a minute. You actually told your friends, I want you to get hired first so I can get an unemployment
I want to
check.
know what that's like. I've never tapped into that, So it's like
never tapped into it.
Yeah,
I want to work the system for 2 weeks, man.
At least, but I couldn't even get the pleasure of that.
Couldn't pull it off. Huh?
I couldn't, So within that, I was, got hired at Catholic Charities and working with the probation and parole population. Yeah. And that's what I've been doing since I've been here in Michigan, working with Insight, working with those two populations. One of the best things that has happened because of that, it allowed me to really see what's in the hearts of these men who are seeking help.
And how does what you're doing now get you to be able to do that where you couldn't do it before?
I think experience in learning about the problems that they've gone through, that I went through some of these problems, perhaps not to their degree.
Right.
But at some point, something happened in their life and they made the wrong turn.
Yeah, it broke them and they made the wrong choice.
And absolutely. Yeah. And as a result of that, this is where the legal system got involved in their lives.
Right. And who can't relate to that? Right?
I think at one point or other, have you gotten pulled over by police and got a speeding ticket? Yeah, we can all relate,
Yeah, well, we've all made the wrong decision. So here you are at Salvation Army. You're working on these guys. And did you get hired in as a director of rehabilitation?
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I was providing services at Salvation Army as a counselor from 2006 to 2011 when Inside closed.
So this is the job that you took instead of unemployment for 2 weeks?
No. Oh. So in 2011 is when Inside closed, so I got sent to Catholic Charities, but that's when I was making those comments that I wanted to collect unemployment.
Oh, so it was Catholic Charities that you were...
Before they hired me, yes.
And then how long were you at Catholic Charities?
So I was at Catholic Charities for about 2 years working with the probation parole population. Yeah. Then I went to New Pass as a counselor for probation and parole.
Yeah.
It was thereafter that Salvation Army called and said, we understand that you've worked here for a number of years and you understand our missions statement. We would love to have you back, not as a counselor, but as our director of rehabilitation.
And so how long did you take to mull that over?
The only thing I could hear is my mom saying, go somewhere where you can talk about Jesus.
So mom was still there.
She was, and it was still in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I could tell you. We were talking it in the break, but tell her these crazy people are going to kill you. She wanted you out of there.
So
talking about God.
While working for Missouri, it was a forensic facility. It was state house, but forensic facility. So, and of course, it was still.
What do you mean by forensic? What's it?
So the type of people that we were working with, if I could maybe use people that were extremely disturbed or committed horrendous crimes while under the influence.
Violent.
The 7 deadly crime type deal as far as your rapists, child molesters, serial killers, dangerous people.
And you were talking to these guys.
Yeah, for 10 years. I enjoyed it.
There had to be some interesting conversations.
Oh, let me tell you, it was very interesting. But you know what? It seemed like I never had any problems. I've never encountered, and usually in these types of facilities, these types of settings, there's arguments, there's breakouts, there's fights, and I could hear my mom always say, you need to get away from that place because, you're going to get killed. Right. And it's like, Mom, no, I'm not. I'm having a fun time. Yeah. She could not understand.
I swear these guys are fine.
Yeah, I've never had one encounter, honestly, since, for the 10 years. And I think, again, a lot has to do with how we carry ourselves and the respect for others.
Sure. Jail, same thing. It's the same thing.
Wherever you go. I mean, that's the way life is. Showing that respect. Sure. God created us all.
So your mom from the beginning had been saying that when you're a kid, my son's going to be a menace.
Absolutely.
And now you're in this spot and you're like, oh man, that's still there.
It's still there. And mind you that the people in Missouri are saying, it sounds like you're preaching.
Right.
And I'm teaching.
No, I'm teaching. Yeah, no, you get that. And thank you for coming in tonight.
Right. Absolutely. Now let's turn to page 54 in our hymn book.
There it is. Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so
so you go to Salvation Army, you take the job as director of rehabilitation, and you're about how old do you think?
So at this point, I think I am in close to, I guess, my 40s.
So like early 40s.
Yeah, right? Somewhere in there.
So from 21 when you got out of ministry school,
Bible school,
to 41 was basically the journey that you found the thing that you just fell in love with.
Yeah. Without understanding much of it.
Well, this is like when you try to explain that to somebody, like, how did you know? You're like, well, I didn't know. This is the pathway that opened up based off of the choices that I made, right? You could have chose to quit with 2 weeks ago. You didn't. You could have chose not to work those 3 jobs to be able to pay off that stuff. You didn't. You chose to do that. Those major 2 decisions affected how everything else moved forward, right? And how you handled things. And one of the things I'm always trying to tell people is you're a product of your decisions. People actually define you by those. They'll define rehabilitation director because that's the position that you have, a chaplain, but also if you struggle with drinking, you're a drunk. Mm-hmm. If you struggle with addiction, you're an addict. Absolutely. Right? And those decisions, and all you have to do is make different decisions so people identify you differently, mm-hmm. right? What is the most defining character position? And that's why the story of you like working hard and going through those things is like this backbone of all the things, because that's the thing that makes you different in my mind from everybody else. And as we get ready to go to our break, we're going to get talking about what Salvation Army is doing now and stuff we're moving into. Please go to our Facebook and our YouTube page, Spiritual Warfare Unit website, spiritualwarfareunit.com. Like, subscribe, and share so your friends can see it too. We'll see you in a minute. All right, welcome back to the Warrior's Way. Our warrior this week is Danny Martinez from the Salvation Army, the Director of Rehabilitation. And I had said when we started, I lovingly call him the mayor of Flint, the unofficial mayor of Flint, because if you need to know somebody because of your years of working in Insight and Recovery and Catholic Charities and Salvation Army, you know everybody, right? And so that has been a really great asset, because when you're doing jail reentry, trying to connect that community with the people in the jail that need those issues, or when you're trying to help people with drug rehabilitation and addiction to find those things. It's amazing how people can't find it. But you're like this resource, and you've been doing it for, what you say, 28 years, mm-hmm. and you just happen to know everybody. So we got to finish up with the story, the incredible work ethic God gave you, the decisions that you made to get all the way to Salvation Army. So what is Salvation Army doing in Flint, Michigan, like as far as that people would be interested in, or things that they could get involved with, or things that will be coming up where they can go check it out? What do you got?
Absolutely. So, we are changing lives. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that brought me over to Salvation Army, was also hearing in the back of my mind, Mom saying, you got to go somewhere where you can talk about Jesus. Right. So when I called her up and said, they've offered me this job, immediately she says, take it. I said, but Mom, I'm going to be losing more money. It's not about the money, Danny. It's about Jesus. Wow. And
that had to feel good, right?
It did. It brought, that it's not about the money, but it's the transformation of lives through the Lord Jesus Christ. And I think that's what makes our jobs extremely rewarding. Mm. I've been found to do the work with the guys whenever they're working. I get right in there with them. As Isaac has said, the floors and all this kind of stuff. But, the reason he says floors, because that's one of the ways that I was paying for my college, that was my work assignment type deal. So I learned to work on floors, on buffing floors and all that. But what he doesn't know is that's therapy for me.
Yeah,
because that's actually, I'm able to zone out while doing something good, and also teach some of the guys some of these skills. I think that in doing so, I need for people to see me that I'm not just a person with a title, but I'm a person that is able to get right on in there, raise my sleeves, and says, what can I do to help? Because I believe that's what Jesus would really do with us. It's like, what do you want me to do? And I want to do the same thing.
You're like one of those blue collar guys that got through, and you got the title, but you're really just one of the guys.
Absolutely. The title, I'm not worried about the title in the least. I think that I want people to see that. If I have to tell you what my title is, something's not right.
Right. And if I have to use my title, we missed the whole point.
Right. So, can I just be one of the guys and also, and at the same time, receive the blessings from God for doing what he wants me to do? Because till this day, thanks to him, I can do what I do because he allows me to get up every morning without assistance. He allows me to feed myself without someone feeding me, and he allows me to do Danny without having to depend on anybody else through his strength.
Absolutely. And so now that we have your story, what is it that Salvation Army does, like in the community, to help people if people are interested in like checking out what you're doing or getting involved in something? Because we have July, there's a big thing called Sober Fest, right? Mm-hmm. And are we doing that pond again? Are we doing?
No,
good.
I don't think so at this point. But
Good, because that was
you know,
freezing. So
but yeah,
but no, we do Soberfest. Now that was in conjunction with GM, correct?
that is correct. As a matter of fact, they at some point want to come on your show
Okay.
and kind of share a little bit about that. But Soberfest has been going on for 27, 28 years.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And you guys are a big deal about it. And tell them about the guys in the tournament and all that.
So honestly, this is an event for people in recovery, but it's aimed at the entire family. Usually, it was kind of aimed at people in recovery, but they changed it to it's people in recovery, and it's a fun day, a full day, and it's always held at the Union Park 598, which is right across the street from the airport. Those ball diamonds there.
Yep.
And they have clowns. They give, tons and tons of bicycles to kids who can't have one or don't have one. They offer services. They allow the community support staff to come in and set tables to share with the participants what events or what's happening or what services are out there for them as well as the family. And of course, we also have softball. And of course,
they get to be the heroes, and their kids get to see them come play, and it's like this great atmosphere.
Well, it gets better than that. We also have the pro wrestlers out there. What beats that? I mean, these kids are just sold out on that. I mean, yelling and screaming, and but they love it, and so it's one of the best things. And I'm really so happy that I was able and still able to help them in whatever capacity they need to make this event happen.
One of the other things that was amazing is like anytime we needed something when we were getting ready to have a community event, I'm like, hey, can you get the boys and come? And you just hop them up, right? And then tell them about the ambulance thing that you do at the car wreck. That's cool too. Most people don't know about that.
So Salvation Army, I'll be real honest. We're not really good at tooting our own horn. We kind of do a lot of things behind the scene. People just like, well, I didn't know that. Well, so Salvation Army also has another area of support. It's called Emergency Disaster Services. And that actually is run through Citadel, and they have the volunteer director there. So 911, after if there's a third alarm fire or police assistance, they will contact her, and that unit is dispatched. That is, I call it the mobile lunchbox. So pretty much our job is to assist the fire department, or if there's a tornado. We were in Shiawassee a few years ago. And prior to that, we were in Davison when that child was found in that lake. And our job is to support these people who have these jobs by providing meals or hydration or whatever it is that they need. It's honestly a ministry, because that allows me at times to take some of the guys with me who are in the program to see others who perhaps are less fortunate than what they're seeing.
And this is what makes this so cool, is because the guys that are going through the program who are struggling with drug addiction or alcohol addiction actually get to help the cops.
Yes.
Right? And they get to help the firemen, and they're actually giving them coffee, right? And they realize they have value.
That's correct.
And they're getting thank yous from those guys, right? And it proves that it works. And I love that whole thing about it. When you told me you did that, I was like, man, that's crazy. And like you said, I'd never even heard it before. But like when we were doing the community task force, and you guys dropping off like 40 lunches a day, which was great, because those are some really long days, man. I was like 6, 7 in the morning till 10 at night. Like, it was nuts. And just knowing I didn't have to think about it. And you guys are like, yeah, just took care of it. And you do this stuff for the community. Because people think, oh, Salvation Army, save a drunk from the bar, put a nickel in the jar, and they got the clothes, and good for them. But you guys don't take any federal money either. No. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
You guys are all like,
we're self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Yes. And, and that happens, Isaac, only because of people's unwanted goods.
Yep.
That are brought over to Salvation Army. The ARC, the way we fund our program is through people's unwanted goods that we send to the stores. And the proceeds of that is what funds the Adult Rehabilitation Center.
Right. And also the boys that run that store, the guys going through the programs, right?
Yes.
So
they
when
get
you're
rehired
donating your stuff, you're actually helping them, teaching them about a work ethic.
yes,
right?
the rehabilitation that goes with it. You're supporting someone's change of life.
And most people don't know that part either. It
Right.
blew my mind. And so when you get these guys come out, and then when they graduate, there's this community of your graduates,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you keep track of those guys. Tell them about that a little bit.
So we also have what we call our alumni breakfasts, and that's a way for us to continue staying in contact with these guys. You know, many other things that they do is they leave a program and then we kind of lose sight. I'm not too fond of that. I want to make sure that we're talking to one another, because if there's an intervention that we have to do, I'd much rather talk to them and talk them out of these things and allow them that opportunity so that they can continue living independently.
Right, and it's kind of become your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Here in Michigan, I have no family. They're all in San Antonio, Texas. And so I tell the guys at Salvation Army, you guys are stuck with me, because I don't have anyone else.
Yeah, they're stuck with you. Yeah, and because you love them guys, and I love working with them, because when you see the light bulb click, God hits that bulb and just, boop, and you see it, and they make that change, and they're successful. I mean, one of the greatest things in the world is helping somebody achieve, right? And that provides purpose. And this world is screaming for purpose, because people are realizing money is great, but it's not the end all be all. So what's the purpose? And like when people tell me I'm struggling with depression, I say, let's go help somebody, because it's super hard to leave and not feel good, right? And so you not only do these guys go into there, when they change, they become helpers, right? And the reason why I want to talk about those alumni, they actually will come back and hang out and lift weights and shoot pool with the guys, right?
Kind of like the big brother.
Yeah, and it's like creating a family of everybody that, we screwed up, but now what? And we provided an opportunity to be successful, and you give people the opportunity to come in and volunteer and help out with that, and churches that support what you're doing, and community programs that support what you guys are doing, and it's been an absolute riot hanging out, because at the end of the day, like, you want to be able to provide for yourself and your family, but you also want to have a purpose and a reason of why you're getting up and you're looking forward to go and doing something. And I find being able to go and help you guys on Thursdays in the program, that life application biblical program that we put together, when those guys come up to me like, man, I never even thought of that before. And I'm like, I dare you to try it. And then they're like, it worked. I'm like, yeah, I know it worked. That's the whole point. Absolutely. And watching them be successful, it's addicting. It's very addicting, because you're like, man, I wonder what's going to happen this week, right? And even if no one comes up, which has not happened yet, where they were like, oh no, somebody's always like, man, I really appreciate that. And when that comes up, watching those guys succeed, and like, I don't tell them, I get like, because of the car accident, I get physically sick when I'm in loud areas. So when they're going to graduate, I cannot make it out there, because I get physically ill, and there's a part of me that really wants to do it, but it's like, man, 2-day recovery, I'm doing that for 6 hours. It's like, gosh, but I'm so proud of those guys, right? And you sit there and watch that, and their entire life trajectory changes from this to this, because we provided an ability to make a decision, where God gave you that incredible work ethic that you had, surrounded you with people to support you so you could get to those locations, and gave you the ability to do it. Some other people didn't have that support program, right. And you created that, and you use Salvation Army and using the biblical platform as your base to support the rehabilitation, creates an outcome of success. And if you look at that on its own, is really awesome. And that's why I tell people, if you want to volunteer somewhere, go to Salvation Army, because one, you're not crippled by what your ability to talk to, and two, like, you're going to find somebody that needs you. Someone that needs you, and you're going to go into that situation, and you're going to be filled. Right, you're going to feel better.
Absolutely.
And the stuff that they're doing, it's not even work. like you said, the buffing on the floors. I get in there and you got me start talking about life application. I'm 4,000 hours of study. I'm a Forrest Gump when it comes to that stuff. And then when I look at it and that helps those people, it's like, oh, that's what that difficulty was for. That's what that hard time was for. That's what that stress was for. We produce that outcome, and that's where our hearts meet, when it comes to these guys. And it has been awesome. And I was so glad that you came on. Now, is there anything that you guys got coming up that you want people to know about? Any?
No, I'll tell you, and I think I can speak for many agencies that ever since this COVID has come on, it's really taken a whole different toll on a lot of things that we can't do because of the situation at hand.
Right.
So we're praying that there's healing in the nation and healing in the land so that we can move forward, because I think that everyone has been impacted because of the COVID.
Okay.
So we've kind of slowed down with things, but I know that we are planning to get back on the roll and getting softballs and getting all this kind of stuff going.
Well, can people still donate clothes and stuff?
Absolutely. So, there are various locations. I think there is 8 stores here in, some are in Midland, some are. But any store near you would take any donation. At this point, we are not doing pickups because, again, of the COVID, and we can't enter people's homes.
But you're doing the drop-offs.
We will take whatever you bring to us.
So you're still active.
We're still, yes, absolutely active in all stores, even at our location.
All right. Well, Danny, thank you so much for coming in. It was great. You guys come check it out. If you're looking for a way to change your life, you go to our life application class on spiritualwarfareunit.com. Check out our funny videos on Spiritual Warfare Unit. Thank you for coming into the Warrior's Way. We will see you next time.
God bless.
Do you have a nonprofit in your area that's doing a lot of work that people should know about? Feel free to contact Spiritual Warfare Unit at 810-715-9319, and we would love to have them on to see what good they're doing in the community and find out their story. Thank you so much.